New box office breakdown show here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinenberg. Today I'm breaking down this past weekend's box office, which was June the 20th to June 22nd, 2025. We're also going to look at the overall numbers this year, both domestic and worldwide, and preview the upcoming two big movies that are hitting theaters this upcoming weekend in our final box office breakdown coming up next week for the month of June. So welcome back, everyone, to Max Talks Box Office here on Max Talks Movies. My name is Max Dinenberg. If you're new to the channel, guys, please hit that subscribe button and ring that bell if you're new to the channel so you're notified when my new videos drop here on the channel, because they do drop basically every single day. I do this show every single Monday. I do movie franchise rankings. I do out of theater reactions, as well as movie and TV show reviews. So if you like any one of those, please subscribe, ring the bell. Welcome to Max Talks Movies. Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on the box office? What did you see this past weekend? What are you gonna see this upcoming weekend? And guys, also please hit the thumbs up button. The best way to help YouTube creators like myself is to hit that thumbs up button so our videos get recommended to new people. So please, please, please hit the thumbs up. Takes 2 seconds out of your day. So without further ado, let's get into past weekend's box office, which was June 20th to June 22nd. And that is where we get at number one for its second consecutive weekend is the live action How to Train Your Dragon. The film did drop 56% in its second weekend, 37 million for How to Train Your Dragon, which again is up to 160 for its domestic run. Now the movie's budget was around 150, so it needs close to 325, 320 just to break. This movie will break even, but I think DreamWorks is, going to be a little bit shocked that How to Train Your Dragon does not get even close to $1 billion. The highest grossing film of the franchise, which I mentioned last week, was the second How to Train Your Dragon film, which got to around 610 million worldwide. But this film would be very fortunate if it got to that mark. How to Train Your Dragon is currently sitting at 358 right now worldwide. So this film is tracking alongside the animated trilogy, but it isn't something that's becoming an even bigger hit than that original trilogy, which started back in 2010. So I think How to Train Your Dragon is definitely a success and a win for Universal and DreamWorks. They already announced the sequel before this movie even came out, which is coming out. How to Train Your Dragon 2 is coming out in 2027. But this movie is not as big as a hit as some other family films, including Lilo and Stitch. So it's a good hit. It's not a big hit for Universal, which I think a lot of people were expecting. After, again, this movie had easily the best opening weekend for the franchise, but sadly, it seems like it's going to really slow down and finish off at the same point as the animated films. In second place this weekend, a new movie that hit theaters was 28 Years Later from Sony. It opened to $30 million on a $75 million budget. And this is one of the more fascinating movies of the year because this movie got absolutely rave reviews out of the gate. This was a movie that had a near 95% on Rotten Tomatoes on the day of its release. It seems like most critics had such unanimous praise for the movie. Then you heard basically on Thursday when I posted my review, some other critics also were posting some negative reviews on the movie. And then audiences did not seem to enjoy themselves with 28 Years Later. Now, this film is a $75 million budget, which I think is, again, too expensive for a movie like this. The first film back in 2002 cost $8 million. The second film in 2007 cost around $15 million. So this is already by far and away the most expensive film of the franchise. And with 30 million its opening weekend, I think they were expecting bigger numbers after its opening night. But the word of mouth, I think, is going to really make this movie not make its money in the theatrical exhibition. The word of mouth is really bad for 28 Years Later right now. And even though it opened to $30 million, I think it could have at least a 6, if not a 7 in front of it for its second weekend drop, meaning a 60 or 70% drop. Those are bad numbers. I feel this movie will have it because of the bad reception. Yes, they already have shot the sequel to this movie, which is coming out in January, directed by Nia DaCosta. But Danny Boyle has revealed on this press tour for this movie that they want this to be a trilogy, with this film being the first one. The sequel coming out in January is called The Bone Temple. They shot it back-to-back with 28 years later. But the third film, Danny Boyle revealed, has not even been greenlit or financed by Sony. And Boyle says it really all depends on the money they make on this movie, but also the second film coming out in January. If these are money losers for Sony, they will definitely not greenlight a third movie. So very interesting story to watch as the weeks and months go on. In third place is another big womp womp to the box office, and that is Pixar's Elio, which opened to an underwhelming $21 million this past weekend, making this the lowest opening weekend number in the history of Pixar domestically. The lowest was the first film out of the gate back in 1995 of Toy Story, which without even adjusting for inflation made $29 million its opening weekend. $8 million less makes Elio the worst box office opening weekend domestically in the near 30 plus year career of 30 years of Pixar. That is shocking. Elio's movie, which reported budget was $150 million. The reports are the budget is actually closer to $300 million, because if you're not familiar, last year's mid-June release date for Pixar was supposed to be Elio. The Elio trailer came out, if I'm not mistaken, around 2 years ago. But due to some script issues for Elio, they rescheduled their Pixar release. So Inside Out 2 got moved to last year, and Elio was delayed a full year, which made it come out this year. So really a year and a half was the change for Elio. And because they said the $150 million was just on the original budget, but the reworking got it to near 300. So let's say a middle ground is a $250 million budget. This is a really bad opening if the movie cost $150 million, but really it definitely did not. This could be the biggest flop in the history of Pixar. And Disney has been really not confident with their original films over the last 5 to 10 years. And Pixar has been one of them, where Elemental had a very soft opening, did have long legs. Elio, like Elemental, does have both strong and critical reviews. So the audience and critic reviews. So will Elio be able to have very strong legs like Elemental? That is the big question for Pixar. Now, it is the problem for Pixar is that, one second, I'm just pulling up Elemental's box office run for Elemental, because that was such a movie that did not open very big, got to its mark. Yeah, it opened to around 29.6 domestically, but Elemental finished at 500 million worldwide. So again, would that make money for Elemental? For Elio, would that break even? Probably not, but they would love to be at 500 million worldwide after this $21 million opening. Now, it did open, sadly, with some major competition. As Lilo and Stitch has been in theaters for over a month now, and How to Train Your Dragon hit theaters the week before. So it has been overcrowded amounts of family movies. And it is, again, it is so expensive to go to the movies now, especially for families. If you're a group of 4 or 5 people and it's $15 a ticket, you're expecting to spend around $60 to $75. That's before paying for parking or paying for food and snacks in the theater. It can be a lot of money for families, and they can't afford to go to the multiplex every week. And if they already saw Lilo and Stitch and they already saw How to Train Your Dragon, more likely they were going to pass on Elio. So bad timing of release for Elio. I think they could have even moved this a little bit later in the summer, but it just came out right after 2 very big films, including one from Disney. So this movie is wishing to follow in the footsteps of Elemental just a couple years ago, where Elemental had the 3rd lowest opening all time for a Pixar movie, but did gross around $500 million to make that profitable at the multiplex. We'll see if Elio can do the same. In its 5th weekend at number 4 is Disney's Lilo and Stitch. It dropped 38%, another 9.7, 386. It's now over 900 million worldwide. And Lilo and Stitch, if it's going to be very close to $1 billion, we will see if it gets there. And right at the top 5 this past weekend is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning in its make sure 5th weekend as well, dropping, and also 38%, 6.5 million, 178 domestic. Looking at the overall numbers right now for domestic this year, Minecraft, the number one with 423 million. Lilo and Stitch is at number 2 with 386. Sinners at 3 of 277. At 200 is Captain America: Brave New World. At 5 is Thunderbolts at 189 domestic. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning did climb up to number 6, 178. How to Train Your Dragons at 7 with 160. Final Destination Bloodlines is at 8 with 134. Dogman at 97 is at 9. And Snow White is at 10 with 87 million. So right now, 8 movies into at least 100 million domestic. Looking at the worldwide numbers so far this year, a Chinese film is at 1. Minecraft is at 946 at number 2. And Lilo and Stitch is at 3 with 910. So it needs at least 37 million to at least pass Lilo and Stitch. It needs 90 million to get to the $1 billion club. That does seem tough for Lilo and Stitch. I think its goal right now is to at least do better than Minecraft. That is the story to watch over the next 2 or 3 weeks. Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning is at 4 with 540 million. But again, that movie had a over $400 million budget. So it needs around not close to 900 just to break even. So yeah, not great for Mission Impossible. A Chinese film is at 5. Captain America: Brave New World is at 6 with 413. Thunderbolts at 7 with 380. Sinners at 8 with 363. How to Train Your Dragons at 9 with 358. So it will probably pass Sinners next weekend. And Final Destination Bloodlines is at 10 with 280 million worldwide. So 2 big movies take us out here for the rest of the month of June. Coming from Apple is the new film from director Joseph Kosinski, starring Damson Idris and Brad Pitt. F1. Again, Joseph Kosinski directed Top Gun: Maverick. This is supposed to be another very similar film to that one. We will see. Brad Pitt has not been in a big movie that does well at the box office as a lead in quite some time. So it'll be very interesting to see how Brad Pitt does at the multiplex with F1. The other big movie is from Blumhouse and Universal. They are back as Megan 2.0 hits theaters as well this upcoming weekend. The first Megan back in January of 2022. It's been 3 years, shockingly, since the original film, but the first film was a massive success, seen as one of the best January releases of all time. Can Megan 2 also do well? And will that also cut off a lot of the legs to 28 years later? So a lot of videos, guys. I forgot to do this over the last month on the show, but I also like to preview my upcoming videos here to the channel. Lots of videos coming soon to the channel. Tonight, I am doing an AMC Screen Unscreen, which is rumored to be the new Jurassic World movie. So tonight, expect an out-of-theater reaction for Jurassic World Rebirth. And tomorrow, should expect a review for Jurassic World Rebirth. This week, you'll also get my review of a new Prime movie called Deep Cover. You'll get my reviews of F1 and Megan 2.0 as well this week. You're also going to get a review for the first 3 episodes of Ironheart. And then next week here, back on Monday, I'll be here for another box office breakdown show.